Hello friends, this is Angelica. Thanks so much for joining me here on Scrapbook.com's YouTube channel. Today we're going to be making this adorable birthday scene, and we're going to use several products from Scrapbook.com's exclusive line. Let's take a quick look at some of the products we'll be using. I'm going to start with the nested stitched balloons, and then for a background we're going to use the party stencil set. I'm going to pull the birthday hat from the Market Bloom rabbit die set, and then a couple banners from the celebration banner set, die set. The fox is going to be the character on our card, and then I'm pulling some presents from Winter Wishes. I'm also going to be using my brand new pair of pink reverse tweezers, and then I have some stack and sort trays out. We're going to jump right into die cutting, and I'm going to show the second product that I have just recently purchased. I bought this machine last month, and this is the Anna Griffin Impress electric die cut machine, and yes, I am in love with it. It is amazing. So I put all the dies that I need on the magnet sheet that comes with the cutting boards. I made my sandwich, and I'm just going to quickly run that through the machine, and I am die cutting Nina Solar White 110-pound cardstock, and it just went really easy through the machine. I've been using this machine now for about a month, and my plates have yet to warp, so I'm really excited about that. Now, since I had die cut white cardstock, I die cut everything with white cardstock, I do need to add color, so I pulled out my sponge daubers and Distress Oxide Inks, and I'm starting with the feet, eyes, and nose. I just need to make those brown, so I am quickly inking ground espresso on those really small pieces. And for the fox, I do want her to be pink. I'm making this card for my daughter's BFF. Her birthday's coming up. So I'm going to start by inking the left side of the fox. When I'm coloring, I do like to lay down a light pigment first, whether it's with alcohol markers or watercoloring or Distress Oxide inks. I just find that pigments move easier when the paper is a little wet. So the saltwater taffy I just put on the left side, and now I'm using my darkest color to really darken the left side of these die cuts. I want the light source to look like it's on the right side, so I'm going to keep the very edge of the right side light so it has a nice glow. So right now there is no pigment on the right side. I'm going to finish that last with the ink. The next color that I'm using is Victorian Velvet, and that is what I use to kind of blend out the aged mahogany. And now I'm going to finish with saltwater taffy to bring all of the colors together and then bring the pink almost to the edge of the right side of the die cuts. Now, you don't need 5 oxide ink pads out on your desk to color this fox. You can do it with one color and just work with the pressure. Like, keep your pressure pretty heavy on the left side of the die cut. Make sure your sponge is super saturated with ink, and by the time that you get to the left side or to the right side of the die cut, you should be barely touching the paper, so just a little bit of ink lays down. But I wanted there to be a lot of definition to the right side. That's why I brought in some darker colors, but it's not needed. For the chest and tail pieces, I did ink those with Tattered Rose Distress Oxide ink, and before I glue the fox together, I am going to add the smallest amount of ground espresso around all of the edges just to age the fox a little bit and give it kind of a grungy look. Now, the shadow, you can just keep it white, or the main full fox that you're going to glue all the pieces on. I added pink ink to that piece also, just in case I did glue any of these pieces on a little crooked. That really bright white cardstock isn't going to show from underneath. And I should have brought the packaging back in right here. The back of the packaging is going to have the illustration, the fox illustration, if you need some help putting the pieces together. For the eyes and nose and ear pieces, those are really small die cuts, so I'm going to use the wax end of my craft pick tool. This is a Scrapbook.com exclusive tool, and it's a longer it's a longer pick, but you can pull the edges off. So I pulled the wax end off, so it's a lot more manageable. So I don't have this really long stick in my hand, and used the wax piece to put the eyes and nose in place. I did have a little bit of glue that came out from under the eyes. So on the other edge of that wax piece from the stick, it's almost like a little scraper. So I'm going to use that side just to pick up the excess glue that comes out right here when I push those eyes into place. The fox is done. We're going to move on to the accessories. So starting with the presents, I'm going to add some salvaged patina to the ribbon that will be on the presents. And these three colors, salvaged patina, crushed olive, and ripe persimmon, these are going to be the colors for the rest of the, well, for all of the accessories. So I put these color combinations together a few months ago. I want to say it was for a couple Christmas cards, and I just loved the vintage look from them. And then I'm also going to add a little bit of the ground espresso around the edges, just like I did with the fox. And these die cuts turned out so adorable. So I'm kind of mixing and matching the colors. I'm also thinking about the layout, because I don't want to have two colors next to each other. So kind of planning out what I'm doing. When I sit down to make a card, the majority of the time, I don't know what I'm going to do. I just pull stuff out, and while I'm inking or coloring or die cutting, I start figuring out how I'm going to do a layout on the card. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm loving how this little party is coming together, but I'm still kind of playing around with positions. I'm also taking inspiration from a card that I made last month, and I will show that at the end of this video. But I had so much fun putting together the card from last month, I thought I would just step it up a bit. So I'm adding a few more accessories to this card. Now I'm moving on to the banners. I did die cut a second set of banners because I wasn't sure how low I wanted the banners to come down. So I'm starting with persimmon, ripe persimmon on the first triangle banner, and then crushed olive. And I want the triangle banners, I did end up using both of the triangle banners, but I want them to be the background of the banners. So those are going to be what will be glued down first onto the panel. But now I'm just going to be adding a color and figuring out the position of the banners. And just like with the other die cuts, I am going to add the ink first and then brush on a little bit of ground espresso. Since these dies or die cuts are pretty intricate, I'm actually just rubbing the ground espresso in several places on the die cuts instead of trying to ink the edges. I probably would just turn them brown. So I just kind of let my sponge dance around the banners just to drop some color here and there. Before I can glue the banners to my panel, I do need to do the background. So I have the party stencil set out, and my first color I am laying down is tattered rose, tattered rose, and I am going to adding pretty much to the whole panel minus the bottom right corner. I'm going to leave that white, so I'll have a spot for a sentiment. Now this, like I said, is a two-piece stencil set, and what I love about this stencil set is not only the size. This is a 6x8 stencil, so you can use it on slim lines, a 5x7 card, a layout, and there is no one way or only way to use these stencils. They're just adding confetti, so you can use them horizontally, vertically. You can flip it over and use the confetti in an opposite direction. I ended up using the first and the second stencil, and then I brought in one more stencil because I needed to add a little bit more confetti. It just seemed a little too plain still. So I'm going to bring in the second stencil, and I'm going to use tattered rose again. And see, I am just kind of looking through and positioning that stencil where the confetti will fill in some of that white space. And because the stencil is so easy to use, I'm not even going to waste my tape or get out my grip mat. I'm just holding the stencils in place. I'm going to take a quick look to make sure I like the background. I love it. So now it's time to build the little party scene. I'm going to start by gluing the banners to the background, and I am paying attention to the positions of the banners. I want them to be just slightly off, like banners would be at a real party. It did take me a couple minutes just to make sure I had all of the banners correctly in place. I could get lost trying to position those banners correctly, or what, I could just keep playing with them. So I made myself just glue them down, move on to the rest of the card. I want everything else to be up a little higher than the banners. So now I'm going to back everything with foam adhesive. I'm starting with what's going to be behind the fox and the balloon that's going to be behind the other balloon, and I'm putting 1mm foam adhesive on those pieces. And then for the fox and the larger balloon, I'm putting 2mm foam adhesive so they'll sit nicely above the presents. I am using Scrapbook.com's foam adhesive. I really like this adhesive. It's not aggressive with its stickiness, and it's really inexpensive. So with the thin strips, I can just use my little scissors to snip the size that I need the foam adhesive to be. And now I'm going to add the first layer of, or the back layer of the die cuts, starting with the balloon. I'm going to put the balloons both in place because I need to draw balloon strings. I happen to have a brown pin already on my desk from a project I did a couple weeks ago. So I'm going to quickly get those strings drawn, and we'll finish adding the fox and the presents and the hat. Now I'm actually starting to think about a sentiment, because the sentiment I had in mind is going to be way too long for this scene. So I am going to pull out a happy birthday stamp set from Scrapbook.com. I was also going through, thinking what other companies' birthday sentiments I have that would be cute for that little area. But I remember there is a little square happy birthday sentiment on this birthday stamp set right here. I love this stamp set so much. I love all of the fonts. There is also a birthday celebration rub-on set that also has some of these sentiments in it. There is a coordinating die set, and some of the coordinating dies will die cut the rub-ons too. I picked 2 sentiments for the card, and I'm going to now stamp them. I'm stamping them with the ground espresso. I like to use a sponge dauber to add the ink. It just goes on more even. And even though this does take 3 or 4 stamps to have that image come out crisp, it just looks fantastic. This is a pigment ink, so it sits on top of the paper instead of a dye ink that goes down into the fibers, and sometimes with these smaller fonts will spread out a little bit. So nice and crisp sentiments stamped. I added the coordinating dies, ran them through my little Sizzix sidekick, and now all I have to do is add the sentiments to the card base. I wanted to ink the edges of these sentiments a little bit too, just so they matched the ink blended die cuts. But before I added the sentiments, I decided to break up those white edges a little bit. I'm just using a blending brush and blending warm buff. This is a beautiful, really light, warm brown, and it just brought that vintage feel to the card base. So now I'm going to finish the card by adding the sentiments. I am using 1mm foam adhesive just to give them a little bit of lift. And that finishes this adorable card. Now, here is the card that inspired me to do the fox card. The rabbit card is so adorable. I did not die cut the sentiment, and I did not use a confetti background. I also brought in those accessory dies just to break up that white background a bit too. So keep in mind what you have in your stash. You can always pull little dies from different sets just to build a scene. So that's going to finish today's video. If you head over to Scrapbook.com's gallery, you will be able to see more ideas and inspiration, projects that these products have been used in. I'll leave a link to the gallery down below in the description box. I'll also leave links to the products that I used here today and to the coupon page. Don't forget about the coupon page. And if you'd like to follow me, I will have my YouTube channel and my blog linked down below. That is all that I have for today. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. Take care, friends.